Cinderella, The Heart of a Champion, Good Bedtime Stories for Kids. Today we have a book named Cinderella, The Heart of a Champion, Good Bedtime Stories for Kids. I think they're so pretty. I hope you guys really enjoy it. I love it. Please give this video a like if you enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thank you, reading. So, here we go. The Heart of a Champion story is part of Cinderella's princess story. The Heart of a Champion story is basically based on the championship of Cinderella's old horse Frau. One day, Cinderella was visiting her old horse friend Frau in the royal stable when her mouse friends Jacques and Gus told her that a messenger had arrived at the palace. Cinderella said goodbye to horse Frau and the other horses and hurried off to hear the news. It seemed there was going to be a horse show. The king usually entered it, but he never did very well. Now that Cinderella was part of the family, he thought she would be the perfect person to represent them. When the king suggested it, Cinderella said, "Why? I'd be delighted." The next thing Cinderella knew, the king was leading her back to the royal stable. The prince and the Grand Duke went with them. The king said, "The finest horsewoman in the kingdom must have the finest horse in the kingdom. I have a stable full of champions, my dear. We'll choose the best of the best, and you can begin training right away." Yes, I can see those red ribbons already. The king ordered his groomsmen to saddle up his horses, all 122 of them, and bring them out to the courtyard. Cinderella climbed onto the back of the first horse. She knew the stallion was the king's favorite, but he was just a bit too small. The next horse, however, was too big. Cinderella sat on one horse after another, but none of them was quite right. Finally, Cinderella dashed back into the stable. Cinderella called, "I'll be right back. I know the perfect horse." Moments later, Cinderella returned, leading horse Frau. The king stared at Cinderella and Frau in disbelief. Patting the horse's shaggy mane, Cinderella said, "Frau may be old, but he has the heart of a champion." The first thing Frau did, however, was trip over a nearby water trough. Cinderella flew over his head. She landed in the trough with a splash. The other horses whinnied with laughter, but Frau hung his head. Cinderella said to the king, "Don't worry, by next week we'll be ready." Cinderella and her horse Frau trained for hours each day. But horse Frau kept making mistakes. No matter how sweetly Cinderella urged him, he missed every jump. And no matter how firmly she steered him, he went the wrong way every time. Patting horse Frau's head, Cinderella said, "Oh, Frau, I know you can do it. No one else was quite so sure, especially Frau." Suddenly, Cinderella's fairy godmother appeared. Godmother explained, "I overheard your little mouse friends talking. They said you need a miracle. So, here I am." Cinderella laughed and shook her head and said, "Oh, that's kind of you. But we don't need a miracle, just a good night's sleep." Fairy godmother whispered, "My dear, you know horse Frau can win, and I know Frau can win, but our friend Frau doesn't believe in himself yet. I'm going to help." With that, she raised her magic wand and waved it at Frau. Suddenly, Cinderella and horse Frau had new outfits. A glass horseshoe appeared on each of Frau's hooves. The fairy godmother said, "With these horseshoes, you'll never miss a step." The next day at the horse show, Cinderella saw more fine horses than she had ever seen before. All horses looked like champions, but so did Frau. He held his head up high and stomped his hooves proudly. The king could hardly believe that Fro was the same horse he'd been watching the trip and stumble all week long. Fro cleared every jump with ease. He never took an awkward step or a wrong turn. He even managed a graceful little bow to the judges at the end of his routine. Cinderella smiled. Her fairy godmother had been right. Fro had only needed a reason to believe in himself. In the end, there was no question who belonged in the winner's circle, Princess Cinderella and Horse Fro. The king told the Grand Duke, "You know, I had a special feeling about that horse all along." After the horse show, Horse Fro returned to his stall at the palace stable with his head a little higher, his back a little straighter, and his glass shoes ready for the next time duty called. The end. Good job, friends. Thank you so much for reading with me. Bye, I'll see you next time.